for choosing Anf Tv. This is our evening news with me, Aulaja Sekinat. And here are the top stories we are tracking at this hour. President Muhammadu Buhari condemns murder of Yobe cleric. Again, President Muhammadu Buhari vows to face banditry in Nigeria headlong. Still in Nigeria, INEC and major stakeholders support creation of Electoral Offences Commission. In Libya, United Nations fears renewed violence could reverse progress. Now the news in details. We start from Abuja. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the murder of Yobe state-based cleric Goni Asaimi. The police said a soldier, John Gabriel, whom the cleric offered a lift, has confessed to the murder to steal his car. Mr. Gabriel and an accomplice, Adamu Gideon, are being investigated for armed robbery and homicide. In a statement by his media aide, Garba Shehu, President Muhammadu Buhari said such a criminal act is becoming of a soldier and negates the ethos of the military. He does ask the military leadership to flush out bad soldiers within its ranks. Buhari added that such an incident is capable of making fellow citizens fearful of assisting soldiers, thereby destroying the bond of trust between the military and the civilians. The president commiserated with the Yobe state government, the people of the state, and the family of the victim of the popular cleric. President Muhammadu Buhari has emphasized that football remains the #1 sport in Nigeria and a national asset for the entire country. Buhari then pledged that his administration will resist any attempt to undermine the development of the round leather game.
Mr. Buhari stated this when he received the 10-year Football Development Master Plan submitted by the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dawe, in Abuja. While describing football as our passion and a major tool for unity, the president affirmed that it is the responsibility of the government to safeguard the sport, which has brought Nigeria many laurels, and treat it as a national asset. Buhari added that his government is interested in developing a football culture that will accommodate global best practices. President Buhari expressed delight that the master plan enjoyed the input of a wide range of stakeholders in football. In his part, the sports minister, Sunday Dawe, announced that the Buhari administration has disbursed over 15 billion to NFF through budgetary appropriations and presidential interventions in the last 7 years. He commended the president for the attention given to football development in the country and for laying a solid foundation for the growth of the game. Mr. Dawe further pledged that the ministry would monitor the faithful implementation of the master plan.
Still on Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari said the most populous African country has ordered security agents to hunt terrorists within Nigeria borders. The president revealed that security agents have the mandate to hunt, pursue, and speak to terrorists in the language they understand. President Buhari declared that these are the Citizen Summit for National Integration, Peace and Security, organized by the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations and Partners, held in Abuja.
President Buhari, who was represented by the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, assured that terrorists would be expunged from Nigeria.
Past couple of days, you must have heard about the number of terrorists neutralized by the military and number of hostages freed. These efforts will not stop or reduce. We must take the fight to terrorists and demonstrate that there is no hiding place for them within the borders of our country.
He further promised to successfully tackle terrorism and banditry across the nation. While speaking at the event, the president of the institute, Malam Mukhtar Sirajo, disclosed that the task of rebuilding Nigeria is very enormous and demanding.
We must change the paradigm on how we engage the citizens and the techniques of dialogue. Those in leadership positions must learn modern art of citizens' engagement, and the people must, on the other hand, appreciate the fact that the task of nation building is a collective responsibility in which the citizens too have great roles to play.
He thereafter expressed the readiness of the institute to join efforts with government and other well-meaning Nigerians individually and corporately to drive the nation-building process to a logical conclusion. Timileyin Okunlola reporting for Anf Tv.
United States government had signed an agreement with federal government to repatriate $23 million Abacha loot to Nigeria. Abubakar Malami, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, explained that the conclusion to return the stolen funds, which is tagged Abacha 5, was a product of series of bargain and the meeting between Nigeria, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the UK National Crime Agency. United States government has signed an agreement with federal government to repatriate $23 million Abacha loot to Nigeria. Abubakar Malami, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, explained that the conclusion to return the stolen funds, which is tagged Abacha 5, was a product of series of bargain and meeting between Nigeria, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the UK National Crime Agency. He also noted that President Muhammadu Buhari has already endorsed the funds to be utilized for the ongoing Presidential Infrastructural Funds (PIDF) projects, namely
Abuja-Kano Road, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and the second, Niger Bridge, under the supervision of Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority (NSIA).
While the agreement signing was held at his office. Also speaking at the signing, Mary Leonard, U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria.
The U.S. Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation seized these funds in response to General Abacha and his associates' violation of U.S. law when they laundered these assets through the United States and into accounts in the United Kingdom.
She asserted that the agreement is a collaboration that governments must continue in order to right wrongs committed under the previous regimes. She also noted that the fund will be used to accomplish infrastructural projects mentioned initially by the AGF. Mary further explained that the U.S. is keenly informed of the devastating impact corruption has on societies. As 2023 elections draw closer, critical stakeholders in the country have shown their support on the proposed establishment of the National Electoral Offences Commission to investigate all offences relating to elections in Nigeria and prosecute offenders in the bill under consideration. They announced that the establishment of a separate body to handle electoral offences become expedient as the Independent National Electoral Commission is not empowered to prosecute or sanction those who contravene the laws governing elections in Nigeria.
Critical stakeholders in the country have shown their support on the proposed establishment of the National Electoral Offences Commission to investigate all offences relating to elections in Nigeria and prosecute offenders in the bill under consideration. They announced that the establishment of a separate body to handle electoral offences becomes expedient as the Independent National Electoral Commission is not empowered to prosecute or sanction those who contravene the laws governing elections in Nigeria. The stakeholders communicated this at a public hearing on the National Electoral Offences Commission Establishment Bill 2022, organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters. Mahmood Yakubu, INEC chairman, in his presentation, said the reform of the country's electoral process cannot be complete without effective sanctions on violators of the law.
We look forward to the day when highly placed sponsors of thuggery, including high-profile figures that seek to benefit from these violations, are arrested and prosecuted. We believe that the work of the proposed commission will help in this regard. The ballot box snatcher is unlikely to be a beneficiary of the election. The person who gives money at the polling unit is unlikely to be a beneficiary of the election. And these shenanigans will not stop until we get to their sponsors, the high-profile sponsors of these violations, and make an example out of them.
The INEC chairman further suggested that the Electoral Offences Tribunal should be established with exclusive jurisdiction to try electoral offenders, unlike the provisions of Clause 33, Section 1 of the bill, which confers jurisdiction on federal, state, and FCTI courts, which are already overburdened. Yaba Gisani, chairman of the Interparty Advisory Council, in his presentation, said the political parties were afraid as to how INEC was going to enforce the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. He observed also that there is no representative of civil society groups in the membership of the commission and called for their inclusion as that will protect the interests of the public. Clement Iwako, the Executive Director, Policy and Legacy Advocacy Center, while backing the planned commission, called for a reduction of the proposed 40 million naira fine on electoral offenders in line with current realities. He insisted that the Electoral Offences Commission must be independent and insulated from politics and partisanship. Timileyin Okunlola reporting for Anf Tv.
Still in Africa and now in Libya, the United Nations have voiced deep concern over growing tension between rival Libyan forces, calling for immediate moves to calm the situation. Violent confrontations have been recorded between armed supporters of major rivals, which the UN fears could reignite wider conflicts after 2 years of comparative peace.
The United Nations mission in Libya has raised concerns over what it described as an ongoing mobilization of forces and threat to use force to resolve the country's political crisis. The mission called for an immediate de-escalation while adding that the use of force by any party is not acceptable and would not lead to international recognition. Libya has been immersed in a stalemate for months after the Eastern-based parliament swore in a new prime minister despite the incumbent in Tripoli refusing to cede power, leading to a standoff with armed factions backing each side. In Tripoli, Abdelhamid Biba was installed last year through a United Nations-backed process to head a new government of national unity and oversee an election that was scheduled to hold last December. After the election process collapsed with rival factions refusing to agree on the rules, the Eastern-based parliament said Biba's terms had expired and it appointed Fatih Bashaga to lead a new government. However, Biba and some major factions in the northwest of Libya have rejected the parliament's right to replace him, and he has said he will only quit after national elections. Violent confrontations have been reported between armed supporters of both men, which the United Nations fears could reignite wider conflict after 2 years of comparative peace. Libya has been ravaged by repeated conflict since the 2011 revolt that overthrew Muammar Gaddafi. Last month, the most deadly clashes between the rival groups in Tripoli since 2020 left 16 people dead, including a child.
Now to Angola. Casting of ballots have started in Angola, where voters are expected to elect a president and 220 national members. Incumbent Joao Lourenço, who is running for a second presidential term, faces UNITA Adalberto Costa Jr. The election, according to analysts, will be the most closely fought since independence in 1975.
Polls have officially opened in Angola as voters in the Central African country decide who lead between the party that has been in power for nearly 5 decades or an opposition promising a fresh start, especially for many youth. President Joao Lourenço of the governing MPLA faces the rebel-turned opposition group UNITA's Adalberto Costa Jr.
There is no democracy without a change in political power. There is no democracy. A democracy cannot be formed with the governance of the same political power continuously. It cannot be formed. 47 years of exclusive power brought fears, brought vices, brought delays, and we have concluded today that the continuity of the single party in power corresponds to the postponement of Angola's development.
The MPLA, which has been in power for more than 4 decades, has been criticized for not tackling high levels of poverty, inflation, and unemployment. President Joao Lourenço has promised to reform Angola's oil-driven economy, but some did not believe in him due to a growing wave of discontent fueled by high levels of poverty and unemployment.
É problema geral o desemprego Unemployment's a problem in general, but the way it affects marginalized communities is different compared to other places. This place has become an alternative to fill the void of what exists, because there are no places where young people can have fun, where they can go for entertainment or information.
Here, a lot of people are unemployed. A democratic state that works for the people has to look at the unemployment situation for the young, because we, young people, need jobs so we don't end up wandering around.
Angola, a former Portuguese colony, emerged from the wreckage of a 27-year civil war to become one of Africa's major economic players. Despite Angola being rich in oil and minerals, many have not benefited from that resources. The estimated youth unemployment rate in Angola was 18.52% in 2021. Election experts, however, said they expect a tight race, while international observers hope to see the election being conducted in a free and fair way as the country's ruling party faces one of its biggest electoral challenges. More than 14 million Angolans are eligible to vote on Wednesday, less than half of the Central African nation's 35 million people. The presidential poll will take place simultaneously with elections for Angola's 220-member parliament.
To Malaysia. Malaysia says that they hope Najib Razak jailing serve as a warning against corruption as it becomes Malaysia's first former prime minister to go to prison, after he lost his final appeal on a 12-year jail sentence for corruption on Tuesday. First convicted in July 2020, Najib has been out on bail pending appeals. His jailing marks a stunning fall for a politician who, until 4 years ago, had governed Malaysia with an iron grip and suppressed local investigation of the looting of the 1MDB funds. The country's top court upheld his guilt verdict over criminal breach of trust, abuse of power, and money laundering charges for illegally receiving about $10 million from a former unit of state fund, One Malaysia Development Berhad.
Of course, we are very sad because we lost the appeal. I only say that we seek comfort and solace in the words of a great Indian jurist who said that the Almighty alone can dispense perfect justice.
Investigators have said that more than $1 billion went to accounts linked to the former prime minister. The 69-year-old was taken to the Kajang prison, about 40 kilometers away from the capital, Kuala Lumpur. The son of Malaysia's second prime minister, Najib, held the premiership from 2009 to 2018 when public anger over the multi-million-dollar graft scandal at 1MDB brought election defeats. Najib faces several more trials over the 1MDB allegations, but remains politically influential in Malaysia. His United Malays National Organization, UMNO, leads the current government after the defection of legislators caused the collapse of the reformist government that won the 2018 polls. Najib could now apply for a review of the federal court decision, though such applications are rarely successful. He can also seek a royal pardon. If successful, he could be released without serving the full 12-year term. With this story from Malaysia, we conclude our news bulletin. With me, Aulaja Sekinat.